Hello everyone, this is Sadia Malik, and today we are going to do Unit 14 of the first year English textbook. Please remember, this is a textbook that is prescribed by the KPK Textbook Board for the year 2020-2021. The name of the short story that we are going to do today is A Long Walk Home by Jason Bocarro. A little bit about the writer. So, Jason Bocarro was born in Estepona, Spain. It's one of the provinces in which there is a small town called Estepona. The story has been taken from a collection of his real life stories called Chicken Soup for Teenage Soul. At the moment, he lives in America. Now, like we do with most of the short stories that we do, we are going to do the elements of the story. The elements are the setting, plot, characters, point of view, theme, and conflict. So, as far as setting is concerned, the story is set in the south of Spain in a little community called Estepona. This is where the writer was born also. What is the plot? The plot is like a sequence of events that happened in the story. So it's about a son who lies to the father to save himself from his anger. Father knows the truth, is hugely disappointed, and decides to teach the son a lesson for life. So that is the story in a nutshell. Who are the characters? There are two characters, Jason, 16-year-old son, and the father. Point of view that has been used is the first person narrative. So the story is written using pronouns of I, my, mine, etc. Theme is good parenting and character building, especially with reference to honesty and truthfulness. So, as far as the conflict is concerned, there is an external conflict between the son who is lying to the father, and then there is an internal conflict, that is the father trying to teach a lesson to his son by punishing himself, and the son feeling the regret and apologizing again and again. As far as the summary is concerned, a brief summary goes like this. Jason's father asked Jason to drop him at Mijas, a town 18 miles away from home, and to take the car for repairs. He told Jason to pick him up at 4 p.m. However, Jason forgot as he was busy watching movies. When he remembered, he was already 2 hours late. He decided to lie to his father, only to regret it later, as his father already knew. Instead of punishing Jason for lying, he punished himself for walking 18 miles home. The father thought that he had not been a good father, and that is why his son lied to him. Jason realized his mistake in the most painful way. To see his father walking 18 miles home was the most painful incident of his life, and he promised himself never to lie again. So this is teaching somebody by example. So that was something that he would never forget. As far as the theme or the main idea of the story is concerned, its the main idea is good parenting and the importance of giving good habits to children. And you need to start early, and you need to do it when the person or the child does something wrong for the very first time. So as we say, nip the evil in the bud. So do not let it grow. The bad habit has to stop at the moment where it emerges for the first time. Good parents teach children by their own example. Jason lied to his parents to avoid his anger, and instead of punishing him physically, his father put himself in trouble by walking 18 miles home. He wanted to teach his son the lesson that lying was not to be taken lightly. He also wanted to think over his parenting. He thought that he had made a mistake somewhere, and that was the reason his son lied to him instead of telling him the truth. By walking 18 miles, he taught his son a lifelong lesson of always being honest no matter what the cost. So it is basically two-sided. On one hand, he was trying to teach his son a lesson that if you're going to lie to me, I am going to punish myself because I have not been proven to be a good father. So it is my fault basically if you lie. So, but on the other hand, the son also realizes that whenever he is going to do something wrong, the father is going to feel the pain. In this story, the pain was more physical because he had to walk 18 miles. But otherwise, also, if we do something wrong, our parents feel the pain of it and they are tortured by our wrong decisions. So we should not do that. And we should be honest in any case, no matter what the cost. Now, coming to your comprehension questions, these are the end of the unit questions. The first one is already answered. The first one was about the main idea, so I have answered it in the previous slide. The question is, analyze the pattern of organizing paragraphs in the text and tell what pattern has been used. So first of all, you need to understand that A Long Way Home is a narrative essay. This is a real live incident that happened to Jason when he was a 16-year-old young man. And that is why he has used the first person pronoun also. And these kind of essays in which you are telling a story is called a narrative essay, in which you are narrating a story. And the ability to sequence events in a text is a key comprehension strategy. If the sequence of the events is not there, and if you are not following a sequence properly, you won't be able to understand what happened first and what happened later, especially for narrative text, because you are telling a story. Sequencing refers to the identification of the components of a story, the beginning, middle, and the end. So you should know what happened first, then what happened later, and then what happened at the end. So you should be able to differentiate it very clearly in a story. And also to the ability to retell the events in the order in which they occurred. So they have to be mentioned chronologically. So as they happened, the same order has to be followed in the story as well. The writer is telling a story from his boyhood. All the details are in proper order. There is a proper beginning, middle, and end with a moral, and it makes it very easy to understand. So I would say that the paragraphing is in sequence. There's a proper middle, there is a proper beginning, middle, and end, and there's a moral at the end that you get. And if it had not been in the same sequence, you would not be able to understand what happened first and what happened later. What was the most painful and distressing experience for Jason? So, in the whole story, he says to watch his father walk for 18 miles while he was behind him, pleading and requesting him to sit in the car, was the most distressing and emotionally painful experience for Jason. It gave him a lifelong lesson of never to lie again. So he learned the lesson in a hard way, and he learned it by, apologizing and pleading his father again and again. But father somehow did not listen to him, and he wanted this to stick to his memory forever. Next question is, what point of view has been chosen by the writer? Does it suit the writer's purpose? Demonstrate it with the reference to the text. The first person point of view is in use when a character narrates the story with I, me, my, mine in his or her speech. Like in the story, Jason says I, and then I forgot, and I was watching movies, and I lied to my father. So all the point of view is in the first person. The advantage of this point of view is that the readers get to hear the thoughts of the narrator and sees the world depicted in the story through his or her eyes. So we are looking at the story from the eyes of the writer. In the story, first person narrative has been chosen by the writer. It's an incident from his own life, so he feels more comfortable telling it in the first person perspective. It adds to the effectiveness of the narrative. We know exactly how the writer felt during the incident. So the first person is very effective because we are looking at the story through the eyes of the writer, and we feel whatever the writers feel. But obviously it is limiting as far as the perspective is concerned, because we are looking at the story only through the writer's eyes. We do not know what is going on in the father's mind, but that is another way of telling a story. But in this story, the point of view that has been chosen is the first person. Why did Jason's father refuse to sit in the car and decide to walk 18 miles? Was his decision justified? So it's again the repetition of what we had discussed earlier, that Jason lied to his father to avoid his anger, and instead of punishing him physically, his father put himself in trouble by walking 18 miles home. He wanted to teach his son the lesson that lying was not to be taken lightly. He also wanted to think over his parenting style. He thought that maybe he had made a mistake somewhere in his upbringing, and that was the reason his son lied to him instead of telling him the truth. So maybe he thought that maybe I am a little more angry when I'm reacting. That is why my children are afraid of me to tell the truth. So I need to think that over also. By walking 18 miles, he taught his son a lifelong lesson of always being honest, no matter what the cost. So why was Jason's father angry at himself than his son? So he wanted to teach his son the lesson. Again, it's the same answer. The lying was not to be taken lightly. He also wanted to think over his parenting. He thought that he had made a mistake somewhere, and that was the reason his son lied to him instead of telling him the truth. By walking 18 miles, he taught his son a lifelong lesson of always being honest, no matter what the cost. So he was basically angry himself because he was reflecting also. Reflecting is that you think inwardly that where have I gone wrong? This is, as a father, this is my failure because my son is not telling truth to me. So maybe there is something lacking in me. I need to think about that. And those 18 miles maybe brought that idea to his mind that maybe I need to be a little lenient with my children, because if I'm always going to be so angry, they might not be telling me the truth just to avoid my anger. How do you feel about this personal narrative? Obviously, this is a very emotional and compelling narrative. When you even reading it, you feel the emotions in you. If the father had punished his son for lying, it would have been just another story where parents are trying to teach their children through punishment. So even when I was reading it, I was expecting that the father is going to punish the son, that you are not allowed to drive the car for a month, or maybe, you have to walk now. But instead, somehow, the decision of the father to punish himself for his son's fault was something totally new and surprising. So, this is not the kind of parenting that usually we come across. We usually find parents punishing their children in one way or the other. But in this story, the father is actually punishing him, and through that, punishing his son also. The father found a way to make his son regret his decision to lie. He did not force this on his son. He gave him a lifelong lesson without raising his hand or voice. Usually, what parents do is they either shout at their children, or, sometimes they even raise their hands. They beat them. But in this story, without even raising his hand or the voice, he taught him something that he would never forget in his life. Second last question: analyze Jason's relationship with his father. Obviously, they both enjoyed a very good relationship. Jason's father gave him the car to drive him to the nearby town and to leave the car to further repairs. This shows that he trusted his son. Jason was a little apprehensive about his father's anger, which made him lie to his father. After the truth was out, Jason showed his regret and remorse by apologizing to his father again and again. He kept driving behind his father and didn't leave him. This shows the strong bond between them. Because a lot of teenagers, they usually feel very humiliated when the parents are, and being angry at them. But this boy, although he's 16-year-old, he was remorseful and he was sorry, and he kept on apologizing instead of showing, tantrum or showing some attitude. So that shows that he was a very obedient son. The father comes out to be a little stubborn because, for 18 miles, Jason kept on insisting that please come and sit in the car, please don't do this. But he did not listen. So that shows the father to be a very strict disciplinarian. The last question is evaluate the character and personalities of Jason's father. So I have put them in points here. It's more like a mind map. What you can do is write one sentence each and you can have a paragraph. So he is wise. He realized that, lying should not be taken lightly. And he's a little stubborn, as we just talked about, that he did not sit in the car and he kept on walking for 18 miles. So if he wanted to teach the son a lesson, 5 miles could have been enough. And he said, okay, son, I'm going to come and sit in the car, but never do this again. And maybe that would have been enough. But he kept on walking for 18 miles. So that shows that he's a little stubborn. He's a man of principle. He believes that wrong is wrong, no matter who does it. So the son lying to his father was not something that he took very lightly. So he said that this is against my principle and now you need to face the punishment. He's a strict disciplinarian, and the strict disciplinarian, they do not let go of lying very easily. They believe that lying is the root cause of all the bad deeds that you do. So that is something that you need to give to your children very early on, the habit of not lying and the habit of telling the truth always. So, and he hated lying. He thought that this was something very big and this should not be just, let go easily. And he didn't believe in physical punishment. So he did not raise his hand. He did not shout at his son. And he gave him a silent treatment. And that somehow proved much more effective than, raising his hand or maybe shouting at him. So that is how he taught the lesson to his son. So that was it. If you have any question, please ask in the comment box. Also subscribe to my channel, like the video. If you want to share it with your friends, please do so. Also press the bell icon if you want the future notifications to come to you. Thank you.